Okay, hey VDSers, welcome to Centrifuge101. I'm going to show you some of the resources that we use for centrifuging, like the big centrifuges, the rotors and adapters. So this is our Avant, our new big centrifuge that we have from Beckman and Megalodon. This is the Allegra X15R centrifuge, and the only rotor that can go in this one is the FX6100 rotor. We'll take a look at those more in a bit. We keep some of our adapters and accessories in these drawers here and here. And we store some of our rotors down here when we're not using them. We also have a little bit of storage back in the shelves where we can keep some of our lids and also some of the spin coat lubricant that we make sure the spindle doesn't seize up. Let's go take a look at some adapters now. Okay, VDSers, let's check out some more of these rotors and adapters and tubes. One of the things we can do is store some of the smaller rotors in a refrigerator to keep it nice and cold so that our protein stays happy. So here we've got the JA20 rotor. Set it down here. This is our FX6100. This is the only one that could fit in the Allegra, the smaller tabletop centrifuge. One of the things about this this lid, is it has two different handles on it. This butterfly handle on the bottom, and then the regular handle on top. So we always screw the butterfly in first, and then the upper handle would tighten down on the spindle. And when we're taking it off, we do the opposite direction, or we do the opposite order. Take off the top handle, and then the butterfly on the bottom, and this comes off. One thing you'll notice is that this one has an O-ring on it, this black O-ring. That's good to have on there. This one is missing the O-ring, so let's try and put this on the JA20. I lay it on there and kind of work it the way around, and now it's got the O-ring on there as well. Let's take a look at some of the adapter options we have for the FX6100. We have a smaller tube adapter that will hold 14 ml transformation snap cap tubes. Those fit in there pretty well. Sometimes the cap may not fit on because it's such a tight fit that you can actually cover these in parafilm, and that'll help keep those sealed. There are some other types of tubes that are easy to confuse with the transformation tubes. These are ones that we use for Beer's Law, and they're not necessarily sterile, and sometimes these don't fit very well in some of the adapters. These get stuck in these yellow adapters, and so we try to avoid these tubes for spinning down. Back on the FX6100, we have some other adapter options as well. This one will hold a 50 ml conical tube, so we put that in there. We'll be able to spin that down. We also have some thin rubber adapters that can be used to make adjustments. But the old end goals, we want kind of a snug fit. And the higher the speed, the better the fit we want that to be. Let's move to the JA20 here. So this one is ideal for Oak Ridge tubes because this rotor is a JA20, can go up to 20,000 RPM, and that gets us up to a high enough G-force that when we're trying to do our soluble fraction spin down. These fit right in there without adapters, so it's pretty convenient. If we wanted to do transformation tubes in here, we can put one of these rubber adapters, and those will fit in there and hold those. And sometimes 15 ml tubes may fit, but the cap may not go all the way down, so we need to double check and see. Let's take a look at the bigger JA14. This one, the only bottle that really fits in the JA14 is this 250 ml bottle. So if we're doing some large expression cultures, we could put it in these bottles, or we could put it in the larger Beckman bottles. And these bottles fit perfectly into the JA10 rotor here. One of the important things about these bottles is it's nice to have the sealing cap on them with the black O-ring. The sealing cap goes on in addition to the main cap. It helps prevent leakage out of the bottle. This is another bottle that it has a round bottom to it. These are actually for Sorbol machines, and these don't work well in any of our things. So you wouldn't want to use these round bottom ones. going back to the transformation tubes, these are the adapters that will both work in the big JA10. If you want to get a bunch of tubes on the same run, those fit in there pretty well. And we just make sure it's balanced on each side. These fit a little bit more snugly in the yellow than in the blue, but these both will work for transformation tubes. Okay.
One.
Okay, VDSers, I'm going to show you how to load the rotors and a couple of different options for bottles and adapters here. So we store some of our rotors down here, like the JA10, the JA20, and sometimes the JA14. Only the new rotors can go in this Avanti centrifuge, so only the new rotors. Okay, and I could have stored this JA20 in the fridge to keep it cold. But we load it onto the spindle here, and then now I'm going to grab these Oak Ridge tubes. They're a little bit different material, but these will both work just fine. Remember, these are high-speed tubes. I'm going to load them in diametrically opposed positions on in the rotor, and I just screw down the top until it's snug. I like to shake it a little bit to make sure it's seated well, and give it a pull test to make sure it's all the way down. The other thing is we have this tip box up here to prevent the lid from going all the way down, so this lets it kind of some of the condensation to dissipate. So I'll take that and just move it over here for now. And make sure to turn on my centrifuge. On the right hand side there's a switch here, and then when I'm done with it for the day, I would turn it off there as well. So here's where we can set the rotor type. So all we need to do is enter the number associated with this rotor. So this is a JA20, so I'll enter 20, enter, and then I can set my G-forces, or I can set RPMs. And so I want to do G-forces, and then for this one, let's say we do 20,000 RPMs, and I hit enter, or 20,000 G-forces. And then we set the temperature, which is 4 degrees, enter, and then the time, we maybe run this for 20 or 30 minutes or whatever the protocol says for us to do. Enter, and then we'd hit start here. I know that my lid is on and my samples are balanced, so I hit start, and sometimes hit enter start. And it will scrunch down the lid on its own and start the cooling unit. That's the sound we heard, and then it will start spinning. I'm going to go ahead and stop it. Let the speed come down, and then I'll open the door, and I'm going to switch out the rotor and show us how to load the JA10 instead. And then to take this rotor out, I just unscrew it. Out, pull my samples out, and then store the rotor back on the shelf. So this one's heavy. Make sure you got someone to help you if you need it. On there just the same, we unscrew it. Now I'm going to take my 2 adapters, my tubes in there. I can fill these up with more tubes if I needed to, and then I screw the lid on, and the procedure's the same from there. Okay, VDSers, this is the Allegra X15R Beckman centrifuge, and I'll show you how to use it. The on switch is pretty inconvenient to get to, way back here. So I'll flip the rocker switch and turn this one on. It's going to take a little while to fire up here. I have my FX6100 rotor. This is the only rotor that fits in this machine. So I'm going to take the rotor. It's already got some adapters in there that'll fit these 50 ml centrifuge tubes. I set it on the spindle, grab my 2 tubes, put them in opposite positions there, and then put on the lid. And spinning the bottom handle first and then the top handle. And we don't want it over tight, it just needs to be snug. And I give it a pull test, it looks good. Roll down the lid. This one has a little bit of a difficult lid. You have to push on both sides and make sure it clicks down. Now I can hear that the air conditioner and the cooling unit is turned on. And then here you have the same type of setup push button system that we had on this machine here. So that's very similar for running the setup. The only rotor that should be programmed in here is the FX6100. This one right now is different. And so I'm going to push this button until it changes it to the FX6100. Can you zoom in on that? So it's one of 3 or 4 options, so FX6100. Then I'd set my time, temperature, and duration just as I did on the other machine. When we're done with this one, we unscrew the top handle first, then the bottom butterfly handle, where it comes out. We pull these out. And we always like to leave the rotors outside of the centrifuges. We don't want to let them sit in there for long term, because sometimes they can fuse to the spindle and get stuck in there. So we always try to remove the rotors when we're done. And that's how we use this Allegro machine. Okay, VDSers, I'm going to show you also one of the older J2 Beckman big centrifuges and how we use those when the DIY good prospecting space where that is a shared resource. We like to leave the doors open so that they can air out. I'll turn on the centrifuge here with the on switch. We hear the cooling unit come on, and while it's doing that, I'm going to go down here and grab the rotor. This is a JA17 rotor. It has good positions for Oak Ridge tubes or 50 ml nauticals. One important thing when we're using any centrifuge is to make sure that it's clean before and after we use it. There's some residual bacteria in there. We can wipe it down with paper towels and spray down with 10% bleach to disinfect the machine. So I have my samples in there. I'm going to tighten down the lid. I'm going to go ahead and close the outer lid here. And this is the switch where we open them. We pull on this to sometimes we have to have the dial set to 0 in order to open it. There we go. That time we just needed it to be pushed down again to be able to open back up. Close that. This is where we set our speed. Our temperature is going to take a while to get down to 4 degrees, where the set temperature is. Sometimes if we have an over temp light, the recommendation here is to turn this off, wait 10 seconds, and then turn the machine back on, and usually that over temp light will go away. Here's where we set time, and this is the start button when we'll start the run. One of the things we do when we're using these large Beckmans is we use the speed chart here, because we can't just tell it which rotor we're using and it can figure out the speed. We've got to tell it the speed and the RPM, so we have these speed charts. On the other video, I walked through how to use the speed charts. Once we figured out our numbers, we'd set that on the dial here at start. We always stay with the centrifuge until it gets up to speed. So this time I set it for about 6,000 RPM, so I wait till 6,000 before I was able to walk away and go do something else. Once the run is done, we turn the speed down, we open it up, remove the rotor, and remove our samples. Set the rotor back down here, and then make sure to turn the centrifuge off if no one else is going to use it right afterward, and leave the lid open. Okay, VDSers, so now we're going to check out the the Megafuge, also known as the Megalodon. We're in the DIY and bioprospecting space. So bioprospecting owns this centrifuge, and we get to use it as a shared resource. One thing as a shared resource, we need to make sure and sign in on the logbook whenever we're using this and doing our runs. And I'll go ahead and turn it on. The switch is way in the back. It'll fire up here, and we've got some the adapters back here that we can use, and also the lids that are going to go on the swinging bucket rotor. We open the door by pushing on that button, and if we zoom in here, we can see the TX400 swinging bucket rotor. These fit in here. One of the important things about this fit is that this little white semicircle needs to match up with the semicircle on the metal bucket. If we have it rotated, then this doesn't go all the way down, and these tabs can break, breaking the adapter. So we put those all the way down. Let's grab another one here to go here in the semicircle. Fits well. We have some tube options. These are designed to accept 15 ml conical tubes, so that bottom is conical. They slide right in there. It's perfect for this application. Sometimes we've used these 14 ml transformation tubes. These aren't ideal for here because they may get stuck in that wedged bottom of these. These are best done in our big Beckman centrifuges with adapters over there. So once we have our tubes ready, we can put on these caps. These caps help make sure that we've got our adapters in the right way. They fit on like that. So this one's on tight. We set one on over here. Okay, and that ensures that we have our adapter down all the way. These are on tight. We could close the door once we have our samples balanced in there. We'd set the speed. If we hit this button, it changes between G-forces and RPM, so depending on what your protocol calls for. One thing that we found out is this one doesn't go all the way up to the max is about 5,000 RPM because of that swing bucket rotor. So that's a little bit lower than the protocol sometimes calls for. If that's the case, since this is still a low speed spin, we can just add a little bit of time, maybe run it for another minute or so to help make a good pellet out of your sample. Once it's done running, we hit stop, open, take our caps off, take our adapters out, make sure there's no leakage inside the main basin. If there is, we wipe it down with paper towels, wipe it down with some 70% ethanol or 10% bleach. And then we turn off the machine back here, off switch, and then we're done.